Hi and welcome. We're now looking at Psychology 1 and now looking at the portion of the chapter on emotions. Emotions can color our lives. We are green with envy, red with anger, blue with sorrow. Positive emotions such as love and desire can fill our days with pleasure. Negative emotions such as fear, depression, or anger can fill us with dread and make each day more of a chore. So just what are emotions? If you ask people to define emotions, you will likely get a variety of answers. Most people will probably say that emotions are feelings. Some people will give examples such as happiness, sadness, anger, but few will be able to produce a good definition of what is an emotion actually is. Even psychologists have had difficulty defining what is meant by an emotion. So let's begin our investigation into what is an emotion. Motivation is fueled by our emotional state. Emotions prepare and motivate us to respond adaptively to a variety of situations. For example, when we see someone who is sad, we may be motivated to help them. Fear motivates us to either flee or escape danger or to engage in protective behaviors. Emotions make it more likely that others will respond to us and vice versa. So by definition, an emotion is a feeling state that involves physiological arousal. This allows us to feel the intensity of the emotion. Physiological means it's experiencing in our body. We actually have a feeling. 2, cognitive appraisal of the situation arousing the emotion. The way we perceive or interpret a stimuli or a situation determines the specific emotion we feel. It helps us explain why not everything that occurs in our lives is experienced in the same way or elicits the same emotion from two different people. I might look at the edge of a cliff and go, "Oh, I can hardly wait to get my parachute and jump off this and then base jump." Somebody else will have stood there and looked over the edge and basically fainted or relieved themselves out of stress. Cognitive appraisal of those two people were different. And then thirdly is a behavioral component, or the outward expression of the emotion. Facial expressions, gestures, body posture, tone of voice stem from and convey our emotions. So that's really important. And now we're going to look at the theories of emotion. The theories of emotions differ from the sequence of events that lead to the emotion. So when we look at these theories, you'll see in your textbook under Review and Reflect 2 for a summary of these theories of emotions. And they're all based on, and they differ in terms of the sequence of events that lead to emotion. And we'll go through them quickly, and again, I would recommend reviewing them in your textbook. According to the James Lange theory of emotion, environmental stimuli produce a physiological response, and then our awareness of this response causes an emotion. Whereas the Cannon-Bard theory of emotion suggests that emotion-provoking stimuli received by the senses are relayed to the thalamus, which simultaneously passes information to the cortex, giving us a mental experience of the emotion, and then to the internal organs, producing a physiological arousal. Now that's different from the previous one. And then we get into the Slater-Singer theory, which states that for an emotion to occur, 1, there must be a physiological arousal, and 2, the person must perceive some reason for this arousal in order to label it as an emotion. Then the fourth group, or the fourth theory, is the Lazarus theory, states that the arousal occurs, then a cognitive appraisal is made, and then the emotions and physiological responses follow. So when did you receive a lesson on how to smile, frown, or any other emotion? There are what we call basic emotions that are universal across cultures. Basic emotions are happiness, sadness, disgust, fear, anger, surprise, and distress. These emotions are unlearned and are reflected in the same facial expressions in all cultures. facial expressions of different emotions develop in a particular sequence in infants and seem to be result of maturation rather than learning. When we talk in terms of the difference between maturation and learning, it's that they occur without having to be taught. Maturation is that certain things happen as we get older, regardless of our lessons. We don't learn to walk. Walking occurs as a part of maturation. The same sequence occurs even in children who have been blind or deaf since birth. So, in those instances, they aren't receiving instructions in the same manner, and yet these facial expressions still occur. By 3 months of age, infants can express happiness and sadness. Laughter appears at about 4 months of age, anger and surprise around 4 to 6 months of age, and by 7 months, infants show fear. Between 18 months of age and 3 years, children begin to show empathy, envy, embarrassment, then shame, guilt, and pride. So when we think in terms of our emotions, they come with ways of others seeing our emotion. Display rules, how we display our emotions, or cultural rules that dictate how emotions should be expressed or where and when the expression is appropriate. Display rules dictate what emotions are appropriate to express in different social situations. For example, although we may not like a gift, we display emotions consistent with happiness in order to protect the feelings of the gift giver. I may not want another pair of socks or a tie for which I will not wear, but I will smile and say thank you and appreciate the gift and the thought that went into it by the person. So that's where I would, you can give an emotion that doesn't necessarily represent your genuine feeling. However, for example, in Japanese culture, it's not appropriate to display negative emotions in public. Display rules are learned early, and we follow them even though we may not be fully aware of them. So, we know, for example, and a very good one, in my view at least, is crying. We accept when women cry as being part of what women do. But when men cry, we view it quite a bit differently. So the display rules within families can be different, let alone within a province or a country. Emotions enable us to communicate our feelings, intentions, and needs more effectively than just words alone, and thus make it more likely that others will respond to us. We are biologically pre-programmed to express emotions and to read and interpret emotions displayed by others. So, how do we experience these emotions? Well, for example, there's a hypothesis that's known as facial feedback hypothesis, which suggests that the muscular movements, for example, in her face, involved in certain facial expressions trigger the corresponding emotion. For example, smiling makes us happy. Researchers have shown that we can experience a particular emotion simply by corresponding facial expressions. This is shown for the emotion of fear, sadness, anger, and disgust. Displaying a certain facial expression causes physiological responses. For example, anger and fear facial expressions caused by an increase in heart rate. Now, passionate love is an intense emotional response characterized by turmoil of emotion coupled with sexual arousal and tremendous longing for that person. Passionate love is more intense than sexual in nature, and usually happens at the beginning of a relationship. Over time, compassionate love develops. Compassionate love is found in more stable relationships based on increased commitment and a sense of liking the other person. Now, according to Canadian psychologist Alan Lee, love is characterized by 6 different styles of loving, all of which may be present in different degrees for each individual. And the 6 styles are these: the first being romantic and passionate, 2nd friendly, 3 game playing, 4 possessive, 5 pragmatic, and 6 unselfish. Now, one that has received an awful lot of research behind it is the triangular theory of love by Sternberg. And he proposes that there are 3 components in love: intimacy, passion, and commitment. And these produce different kinds of love. Now, it's important to distinguish what these mean. Intimacy isn't just physical intimacy, it's the intimacy of disclosure and sharing. You know, the higher the degree of intimacy, the less you keep to yourself and the more you share. And so there's very few people who we are truly intimate with. And there's a lot of people who we might be loosely intimate with. Passion, again, it will fall on a scale. You know, the passion you feel at the beginning of a relationship where falling in love is a part of it might be different than the passion that you feel after 60 years of marriage. Commitment, again, it's on a scale. And so in this instance, he's got examples of what he would call the 7 different kinds of love: infatuated love, empty love, romantic love, fatuous love, compassionate love, consummate love, and liking. And what I want you to do is to look at the image I have, and so to see with each of these particular styles of love what amount or what issue of intimacy, passion, and commitment are there, to sort of see how those differences, and then again, keep in mind these are all on a continuum. All right? Well, that is a quicker overview, again, of emotion. I hope it's been helpful for you. Good luck. Keep up the good work, and we are almost there, everybody. We are almost there. Happy days. Bye now.